Wow. I guess this is it, isn't it? Never would have thought this would be happening. Well, guys, I guess we have to do this one last time. If you know it, say it with me. This is a Nintendo Switch. And this is a lot of Nintendo Switch games, which means there's going to be a lot of third-party games. Now, Nintendo consoles are known to not have third-party games in the last few systems. The Nintendo Switch has had the strongest third-party support from a Nintendo console ever. And with that being said, there has been incredible Switch ports and there's been horrible Switch ports. In this series, we have shown you what are the best Nintendo Switch ports. And today is the grand finale of the third-party game series. By the end of this video, we would have officially reviewed 100 third-party Nintendo Switch games. And in this video, I made sure to bring banger after banger in this top 10 video. So grab some popcorn and let's get right into the final top 10 third-party games video for the Nintendo Switch. Coming in number 10 is one that I am surprised that I am putting on this list, because if you would have told me this back in 2020, I would have been laughing at you, because this series kind of exists because of this game. Coming in number 10 is The Outer Worlds. Now, if you're not aware of the history of The Outer Worlds, when this game came out, it was horrible on the Nintendo Switch. It was one of the worst Nintendo Switch ports out there. To be honest with you, I don't even know how they okayed to release this, considering what The Outer Worlds was and how big of a deal this game was to coming to the Nintendo Switch. When this game got announced for the Switch, people were very excited because we've seen wonders happen at the time with games coming to the Switch, so people were like, oh, this is going to be great. Another exciting chapter to the Nintendo Switch showing how great the system can be. And when this came out in 2020, it had a lot of question of, is this it for the Nintendo Switch? Can games run on the Switch? Because there's a lot of expectation with The Outer Worlds. And I made this series really because of this game. I started this series hating on this game. And it also has loads of Nintendo Switch ports. And it also has some pretty awful Nintendo Switch ports. So you're probably asking yourself, why are you putting it in the top 10, Max? From doing these videos, a lot of you guys have told me to go back to The Outer Worlds and see how much improvement the developers did with the Switch port. And I'm here to tell you that the game is like 100 times better on the Nintendo Switch. I was actually very much impressed with how it was looking on the Switch. In fact, we even streamed it, and everyone in my comments were telling me how much of an improvement this has been on the Switch compared to back in 2020 when this thing first released. The only issue I had happen in the Switch port now is when I'm walking, it will just out of nowhere load in more stuff. Like you're getting a loading screen when you really aren't supposed to be getting a loading screen. I would say that's the only annoying thing. And the only time you notice a graphical difference in this game is when the characters are up close like this when you're talking to them. That is the only time you're going to notice, hey, you're playing this on the Switch. This game has been improved so much, and I was very much surprised because this was extremely unplayable when it came out. It was dropping like 5 frames per second, man. It was really bad. I felt it was important to go back to this game, the game that kind of started this series, and in the final episode of it, it ends up being in the top 10. Kind of crazy to think about it, but I can definitely recommend The Outer Worlds now with the updates of this game. Coming in number 9 was a game that was a childhood favorite of mine back in the day, which is crazy to say it's a childhood favorite because I vividly remember this game. And it really doesn't feel that long, but ultimately, it has been a long time since this game has come out, and it has been brought over to the Nintendo Switch, and the Switch version is very unique. Coming in number 9 is the Star Wars Force Unleashed. A few things I need to address when it comes to this game. This is a port of the Wii version. The Wii version is the Switch version. A lot of the reasons for that is the Wii had a lot of exclusive modes in it, And it also had the Wii remote motion control features that are also brought over to the Switch version thanks to the Joy-Cons. Because of that, graphically, this game does not look the greatest if you're comparing it to like the PlayStation 3 and 360 versions. That being because they brought over the Wii version. It's an enhanced version, widescreen version of the Wii. Me personally, I love the Wii version. That is the version I grew up on when it came to Star Wars Force Unleashed. And I think this is great. Some people are not gonna like that it's the Wii version. And something that I thought was very interesting is they did not bring this over to the other consoles. Now, I guess it's obvious as to why, because they are using the Wii version, but I'm kind of surprised that the developers of this did not do the PS3, Xbox 360 versions, bring that to Switch, and then the rest of the consoles, and then everyone would have gotten a chance to play this. So the cool thing about this is truly an exclusive Switch game. I think it's cool to have Star Wars Force Unleashed still talked to these days, because at one point, from my understanding, this game used to be canon to the Star Wars lore, and then you'll understand why it's no longer connected to the Star Wars lore, because you can do some pretty crazy things to the Star Wars characters in this game. But this game is great overall, and I will always love this game. If you're not a fan of the Wii version, you probably want to stay away from this, but for nostalgia purposes, I think most of you guys probably played the Wii/DS version of Force Unleashed, so you're really going to like this game. I told you that we were bringing banger after banger, and this next one is one that a lot of you have been asking why it hasn't been on the list yet. Coming in number 8 is Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, the Final Fantasy VII game is one of the most iconic video games out there. And the fact that it's here on Nintendo Switch is kind of crazy to think about, considering the history of this game. At one point, this was an N64 exclusive, and then it was no longer an N64 exclusive. The same company, Square Enix, said it was never going to be on cartridge in the development of Final Fantasy VII. And here we are, 2024, the Nintendo Switch has a physical copy of Final Fantasy VII on a cartridge. This game was exclusive to PlayStation at one point, and now it is on every platform possible. And the Switch is the best place for it to be, with it being an on-the-go system. Final Fantasy VII is an iconic game for most people, with it being Cloud, because Cloud is one of probably, I would say, a video game mascot at this point, because it came out at such an interesting timeline. Now, I will tell you, I have not beaten Final Fantasy VII. I am still working on it. I am going to do it, it's just at this point, it feels more like a chore. But I've played enough to tell you I can understand why this game gets all the reviews that it gets, why it's a critically acclaimed game, and why for many it's their favorite video game of all time. And I hope to beat it someday. It's just when I play video games and I feel like it's a chore to me, it's a struggle for me to beat those games. However, I've put a lot of time into Final Fantasy VII already, and I can tell you that this is a great game for you to buy, especially considering that this thing goes on sale all the time for like less than 10 bucks. That's a key title to have on your Switch, on the go, and a lot of you guys will probably enjoy it considering the type of audience that I have. I think with the games that I've reviewed, this will be a safe pick for you guys. And I'm sure Coleman has a lot to say about it. In fact, I got his permission for me to go ahead and put this in the top 10 since I didn't beat the game. Because I knew how special Final Fantasy VII was for him, and I didn't want to be, talking about it without his permission, to be honest with you, because this is a very special game for him, and I'm sure he'll explain as to why. Coming in number 7 is a video game franchise that I think many would have never expected to hit the Switch, despite it wanting to be on the Switch and being the perfect platform. That game is Persona 4 Golden. Now, Persona is a series that I think is incredible. Now, if you're playing Persona 3, I'm gonna tell you that that game sucks. Do not play Persona 3. But games like Persona 5 and Persona 4 are incredible games. I am still playing through Persona 4 Golden, and I am greatly enjoying this game. It's just, with the 2 jobs that I have, it is hard to play games that are like 50 to 60 hours long. However, that's why I recommend this game for the Nintendo Switch. These Persona games are perfect for the Nintendo Switch because you're constantly on the go, and games that are over 50 hours, they're just meant for the Switch in my opinion. And the fact that it's on the Nintendo Switch is crazy to me. You know, people were buying PlayStation Vitas just to play Persona 4 Golden, and here it is on the Nintendo Switch for less than $20. That's perfect to have for your Nintendo Switch. Not to mention, it probably goes on sale now where you can get it for less than 15 bucks or even cheaper than that. This is a key title to have. Many people are buying it. They bought systems for it. Persona is very popular. It used to be a PlayStation exclusive at one point, and now it's on all consoles. Pick up Persona 4 Golden if you haven't already. But Persona 3 right here, not a part of the team. Coming in number 6 is a game that a lot of us were losing hope in terms of it coming to current gen consoles. But at the beginning of this year, we were all proven wrong. Coming in number 6 has to be the Ace Attorney Apollo Justice Trilogy. For the longest time, Capcom was only bringing the Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright trilogy to current game consoles. It first started with mobile, then it came to 3DS, then it came to PlayStation 4, then out of nowhere it came to Nintendo Switch. And through, I think, that whole cycle right there, we had 2015 to 2020, that was the only Phoenix Wright game we were getting. I think we had Ace Attorney 6 at one point in the middle of that, but we were getting more ports than actual new games. And by the time all of this was happening, people really just wanted Apollo Justice games because those haven't been brought to the system yet, or even mobile. But Capcom, for whatever reason, was not bringing these games over. At the beginning of this year, we had an announcement that this game was coming to the Nintendo Switch, and it shocked a lot of people because people have been asking for this for a very long time. Luckily, it is here, and I have to tell you that the first Apollo Justice game, a lot of these Ace Attorney tutorial cases are not great, to be honest. It's just trying to explain the game to you, how to beat the game, how being an attorney works, all that good stuff. The first case of Apollo Justice should not been as good as what it was, because that was peak. That was crazy. That was crazy for a tutorial one. Out of all the Ace Attorney games I've played, that case was crazy. And that might be one of the best cases in the whole Ace Attorney trilogy. Or, I mean, I guess series at this point. And it's great to have the Nintendo Switch now because all the Ace Attorney games are on there now. This is a must-buy game, and especially if you love the Phoenix Wright games, you will love Apollo Justice. Buy this game. It's amazing, runs amazing, looks amazing. I mean, it should look amazing because, I mean, if you look at the game, it doesn't look like a hard game to run on Nintendo Switch. Buy this game!
Hey guys. You see the time? Yup, 5 a.m. I'm up here editing Max's video because someone forgot to film the commercial. So I woke up in a cold sweat. Join the MONADO Marines. Only then will he ever reach his goal of 0 subscribers. Make it happen, guys. Please. Please make it happen.
Coming in number 5 is another banger and another game that you could have never expected to hit the Nintendo Switch. That game being Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Now, this game visually is a very impressive thing to be on Nintendo Switch. I think in general, this game is one of the best looking games out there from the Nintendo Switch era, and really when it hit PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, that game looked really good. It looked really beautiful. And when this game got announced, I was like, there's no way Activision's gonna be able to invest the money to put this in the Switch. They're not gonna do it. They did Crash Bandicoot, and then I was like, maybe this is possible. Maybe they're gonna bring Spyro. And then I saw Spyro looking more beautiful than the Crash games. I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way that they're gonna put Spyro on the Switch. A year later, they managed to put Spyro on the Switch, and I was like, okay, well, they must be sacrificing something here to put the game on Switch. No, visually and frame rate wise, this game is amazing. I can't believe that this game looks as amazing as it is. And Spyro is a great game. If you're a big fan of the collectathon games, as there's not really many out there now in today's time, this is basically a collectathon with dragons, but you're collecting dragons. It's actually a pretty unique collectathon game. I couldn't recommend it to every collectathon fan, like my editor Coleman. I would never recommend this game for him. He's a very passionate fan of collectathon games because Banjo-Kazooie is one of his favorite games of all time. I couldn't recommend this to him. But if you're a fan of just casual gaming, I think you will really like this game. It's a good time killer, and I think this is like less than 20 bucks now. Definitely pick up the Spyro series. The only downside of buying it on Switch is it's gonna take up a lot of space on your Switch. Even buying it physically, you have to have a download that downloads Spyro 1 through 3. The cartridge in here doesn't have all of Spyro 1, which is kind of crazy to me. It just has a little bit of each game. I hate when they do that, and I don't know why they did it for Spyro, considering Crash Bandicoot has all 3 games on the cartridge. Don't know what Activision was doing there, but clearly Activision and Xbox don't know what they're doing because they apparently canceled Spyro 4. So when you get this game and want to play another Spyro game, you're never going to get another Spyro game. These are the 3 Spyro games you're getting, and that is it. So don't get hooked to the series, but still buy this. Man, I love this video because we are having banger after banger, and number 4 is another banger. And it's another thing that people had been requesting to come to the Nintendo Switch for years and years. Coming in number 4 is Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption is one of the best video games of all time. I think Red Dead 2 is actually better. That might be a hot take, but both games are great. So when this got announced for the Nintendo Switch, I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Because Rockstar Games, I have some sources that tell me that Rockstar Games do not like developing for the Nintendo Switch, but their company that owns them, Take-Two, is forcing them to put stuff on the Switch. That's why for the longest time you didn't have stuff on the Switch, but 2K loves developing for it, and they told Rockstar, hey, you need to develop for the Switch. So they're starting to develop for the Switch. You got things like Red Dead Redemption, GTA, LA Noire, that was like a launch title for the Switch in the launch year. But the big one now is Red Dead Redemption, and this thing runs amazing on Switch. It visually looks amazing. Now, I know that's not like a groundbreaking achievement considering that it is a Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 game, but it's great to see that this game still to this day looks amazing. And the story of this game is one of the best out there. You will not regret buying this game. The only complaint I would have about the Switch version is it never goes on sale. So you're paying $50 for a 360 game that's been out for 10 plus years. So that is a little disappointing, but you will not regret owning this game because it is a masterpiece, and I'm so glad that this is on the Switch. If only they could get Red Dead 2 on the Switch, that'd be great, but I know that I'm not going to say it's impossible, because if they put the time and money towards it, anything is possible on the Switch. I'm telling you now, they just have to put time and effort. You can get games running on the Switch. We've seen that happen. We have seen the impossible happen on Nintendo Switch. Coming in number 3 is a game that all of you guys have been asking to be on this list since the beginning of this series. And for the longest time, I didn't have time to really play it. Coming in number 3 is a video game that all of you guys have been requesting to be in this series since the beginning of this series. And unfortunately, I never had time to really play this game. There was other things coming out that just took priority to be put in other third-party games videos, but for this final top 10 video, I wanted to make sure I put the time and effort into games that people have been asking for. That's why in this video, there has been a true banger back to back. And this next one deserves to be in this list, and it's deserved to be in it a long time ago. I just never got a chance to play it. This time I have. Coming in number 3 is the Dragon Quest XI. Now, what can I say about this? This is an incredibly unique Switch port. Now, I don't think it's as special as it is now, back when it first released. A lot of the stuff that was in the Switch version was exclusive at one point. Now they have made this enhanced version on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. But what made this version so great is, one, it's a super long game, so the Switch being portable, this game was just meant for the Nintendo Switch. But one of the key features of the Switch version is it was basically 2 games. You had a 2D mode and a 3D mode. Obviously most people did the 3D mode, but the 2D mode was the whole 3D game, but in 2D. So you had 2 different forms of gameplay here. It was incredibly unique to see Square Enix do something like this, and a lot of fans probably loved that if you were original Dragon Quest fans, since the series started in 2D. And this was kind of a love letter to those people out there. I don't think I've ever seen something like that, having 2 different modes. The Switch version had even more, but unfortunately, I was an idiot. And I don't know if I'm gonna go back to this game anytime soon. I decided to play around with the 2D mode, and I ended up, I don't even like saying this, but I ended up overwriting my save file of the 3D mode. So all of my progress that I did in 3D mode is gone. Because I don't know, I feel like the wording was poorly used when they explained that. It makes sense now, but to me at the time, I didn't realize. Maybe I was just hitting the A button too much, I don't know. I feel like it should have been explained a little bit better, but my progress that I did in the 3D world is all gone. And I put a lot of time into that. And I don't necessarily know if I want to go back to that. Because guess what? I didn't learn my lesson. Although I didn't play much of the 2D mode, I ended up doing the same thing when I was going back to the 3D world. I overwrote the 2D save file. So I did it not once, but twice. So my save file is non-existent. I have to go back to the game. I mean, granted, my character's leveled up higher now, but I've seen the same dialogue 2 times. I'm tired of seeing the same dialogue. But this is a great game. Game runs great, looks great on the Switch, and honestly, I think the Switch version is the way to go for this. This was meant for the Switch. And fun fact, Dragon Quest XI and Dragon Quest X were the first games to ever be announced when the Switch was called the Nintendo NX. So if you want a fun fact, this is the first official Nintendo NX game that you should own. I mean, this was before Breath of the Wild was announced for the NX, I'm pretty sure. It was, I want to say July 2015 when this game got announced for the Nintendo NX, but I might be wrong about the year. Either way, I do know that this is the first game. And for number 3, you should pick it up. I think this is still a pretty expensive game though, so if you're not a fan of that, you know. Coming in number 2 is another big title that I wasn't sure would ever come to the Switch. I initially thought this would come, but as years went by, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't coming to the Switch. Coming in number 2 is Borderland Street. And what can I say about this? This really surprised me. This did a lot of things that a Switch port had never done before. Now, I'm sure you guys all see the memes with certain Switch games with how its textures look rough, because they don't update textures if, you know, it's a high-powered game. Borderlands 3 does something incredibly unique. It actually replaces textures that would look bad with good textures. They'll put different models than what was there in the other versions of the game, and they still make it look nice and look like it was meant to be there. I thought that was very creative and something we haven't seen done before. This game also visually looks good on Nintendo Switch, which really surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be possible that it would look as good as it did. Not to mention the frame rate was really good. The frame rate didn't start dropping until there was a lot of enemies. Like, keyword, a lot. There had to be a lot on the screen for it to noticeably go down. But a lot of times you don't see that happen. And when there was no enemies, or really just casual enemies just on the screen, game was running fine. Game was running great. The one issue I would say when it comes to the Switch port of this are the loading screens. The loading screens for this are horrible. I will be waiting for a very long time. Kind of reminds me of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. I told you that that was a great game on Switch, but the only issue was that the loading screens were bad. This one was really bad with the loading screens. Now, the good thing about Borderlands 3, you're not going to run into as many loading screens as something like Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, but the loading screens, you're going to be waiting a while. The Switch 2 might be announced by the time you're done with the loading screen. I'm just saying. I'm holding the last game that this is going to be in the series. It's crazy to me to think how far we have come with the top 10 third-party game series. We started this literally in the last house in my room with no posters, no nothing, with my laptop's face cam as the camera, and I'm pretty sure I had a lot more weight on me. We've seen an evolution with this channel as each part came out, pretty much, as there was different backgrounds in this. I think there was 5 different backgrounds in this series. We've also seen my weight loss happen throughout the series. It was a pretty interesting evolution because the channel evolved and I also evolved as a person. This is a series that I really took with me from the beginning. And I mean, this isn't the end, but it's the end of the series. So it was here from the beginning to the end with me. So, I mean, I still have a future. This channel's not going anywhere, but y'all know what I mean. And it's crazy to me that here I am holding the last game that will ever be a part of the Switch third-party game series. Coming in #1 is another big one. It Takes Two. It Takes Two was one of the most impressive Switch third-party games I have ever played. I didn't think it was going to be possible that this was going to be good because the person that worked on it was called Turn Me Up. Turn Me Up had done a lot of Switch ports out there, some good, some bad, and most recently they did the Batman Arkham Trilogy. As y'all heard my review on that, had some good things about it, but I also had a lot of bad things. And with It Takes Two being such a, I wouldn't say high-powered game, but visually it looks good and does a lot of things that I wasn't sure the Nintendo Switch could really handle. And when I played this with my friend Jackson, we were both impressed as we continued through the game. The only time we thought this game looked bad is when the human models came into the cutscenes. But throughout the game, you're going to be seeing how incredible this game runs, as there is 0 frame rate drops, and me and Jackson were waiting for the frame rate drops. There were scenes that were like, oh, this is where the frame rate drops are gonna happen. They didn't happen. This game visually looks amazing. The frame rate is amazing. You're only going to see a visual difference when you get into those human cutscenes. It Takes Two is a phenomenal game. I think a lot of you guys will really enjoy this if you have someone to play this with you, and I highly recommend this to your Nintendo Switch collection and just to play, because this is a genuinely really fun game and a good game. The developer of this, I've played all of his work. I even played his first game, Brothers. A lot of you guys don't even know what that is, but we recommended it in the series. Very good game. I even played A Way Out with Coleman. Very good game. Didn't come to the Switch though. In fact, I'm surprised that this came to Switch because the developer, the creator of this series, when you asked him if A Way Out was going to come to the Switch, he laughed at you. So it's funny that It Takes Two's on the Switch because that visually looks better than A Way Out. But this is a great game. Buy it. And just like that, guys, that is it. We've reviewed 100 games on this channel in this series, this third-party game series. And obviously, next year is the Switch 2. So now is a perfect time to end this series. I never thought I would be able to end this with 100 games because, you know, that's hard to do. We started late on this, but I love this series so much because it felt very special to me having a series like this. Third-party games really weren't discussed, and I'm not saying I created this. I started the movement of third-party discussion, but I definitely was one of the early people talking about this. So to see this discussion go further, seeing bigger YouTubers such as Beat 'em Ups now talking about third-party games, it feels great to be in the beginning stages of this and have some sort of, I'm not saying I created this, but be part of the people that was in the early discussions of it and see it be what it is now. I love this series so much. I know some of y'all are going to be sad that it's ending, but it's good to end it on 100 rather than 120. When the Switch 2 comes out, I will be returning with this series. Whatever this system's going to be called, it'll be the top 10 third-party games for Nintendo Switch 2. It's obviously not going to be called that. Guys, I have been talking for way too much. Make sure to backslash that subscribe button. Like the video. Check out our Twitter. Become a MONADO Marine, $5 a month. Check out our Instagram. Everything in the description below. Let me know y'all's favorite third-party games. Make sure to check out the whole series of this, where we've started with bad quality to good quality now. And wow, this is it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Wow, this is it. I'll see you guys for Switch 2 next year. This series is coming back with a different system. Bye, guys. I gotta be like that one gif where the guy's like, goodbye. Jake Gillian or whatever his name is. Coleman, ask me what it is if you don't know what I'm talking about. But he's like doing goodbye. He's like, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? I'm either looking really smart right now, or you guys, the guy that plays Mysterio, there's a popular gif as he's waving goodbye. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I'm probably looking like an idiot right now. I'll see you guys next year with this series.